Welcome to Legends of Anno Domini. Today we take a deep dive into the life and ideas of Niccolò Machiavelli and one of the most influential political works of the Renaissance, The Prince. Together we'll explore how power is gained, how it is maintained, and how it can be lost just as easily. Written in a time of war, betrayal, and shifting alliances, The Prince was not a guide to being good. It was a guide to surviving in a world where morality and power rarely walk hand in hand. Its lessons would shock rulers, influence revolutions, and forever change the way we think about leadership, ambition, and human nature. Niccolò di Bernardo de Machiavelli was an Italian Renaissance political thinker, diplomat, historian, and writer, born in Florence on May 3, 1469. He lived during a time of constant political instability in Italy, marked by foreign invasions, shifting alliances, and the rise and fall of powerful families such as the Medici. In 1498, after the Medici were temporarily removed from power, Machiavelli became a senior official in the Florentine Republic, serving as a diplomat and administrator for more than a decade. His work took him across Europe, where he observed rulers, military leaders, and governments firsthand, experiences that deeply shaped his views on power and leadership. When the Medici returned to power in 1512, Machiavelli was dismissed, imprisoned, and briefly tortured, after which he was forced into political exile. During this period, he wrote his most famous work, The Prince, a practical guide to ruling that argued leaders must sometimes act ruthlessly or immorally to maintain stability and power. Though controversial, his writings broke from idealistic political thought and laid the foundation for modern political realism, earning Machiavelli a lasting place in history as one of the most influential political theorists of all time. Rather than asking how rulers ought to behave, Machiavelli sought to explain how power is actually gained, maintained, and lost. A shift in thinking that would make The Prince one of the most influential and controversial political works in history. The Prince strips away idealism and forces readers to confront uncomfortable realities about leadership, human nature, and political survival. Now, to understand Machiavelli's core message, we'll focus on the key ideas that define his view of power. Written in 1513 during Machiavelli's political exile, The Prince is a realistic guide to acquiring, maintaining, and exercising political power. It was dedicated to Lorenzo de' Medici in hopes of regaining favor, but its true purpose goes beyond personal ambition. Machiavelli sought to analyze power as it actually functions, not as moral philosophy or religion claimed it should. He deliberately rejected idealism, arguing that rulers who govern according to abstract virtue rather than reality will lose their states. In doing so, he helped separate politics from ethics, a radical move at the time. Having established what The Prince is and why Machiavelli wrote it, the next step is understanding how he categorizes political systems and the challenges rulers face depending on the type of state they control. Types of states and rulers. Machiavelli categorizes states into hereditary states, mixed states, and entirely new principalities. Hereditary states are the most stable because tradition creates loyalty, even when rulers are mediocre. Mixed states, newly acquired territories added to an existing state, are more dangerous because people often resist new rulers while still remembering the old ones. Entirely new states are the hardest to control, requiring force, strategic alliances, and decisive leadership. Machiavelli emphasizes that failure to act swiftly in new territories allows unrest to grow and opposition to organize. Once the nature of different states is understood, Machiavelli turns to the question at the center of political life: how rulers actually come to power in the first place. How power is gained. Power, according to Machiavelli, is obtained through virtù, skill, strength, intelligence, and decisiveness, or fortuna, luck, chance, and circumstance. Leaders who rely on fortuna alone rise quickly, but fall just as fast because they lack the ability to sustain control. Virtù allows a ruler to shape events rather than be shaped by them. Machiavelli also discusses power gained through crime or betrayal, acknowledging that while immoral, such methods can succeed if used strategically. What matters is not how power is gained, but whether it can be maintained. Gaining power is only the beginning. Machiavelli then confronts one of the most controversial aspects of leadership, the use of cruelty and mercy. Machiavelli argues that cruelty is not inherently evil if it serves order and stability. Cruelty used once, decisively, and for a clear purpose can prevent ongoing violence and chaos. By contrast, repeated or hesitant cruelty weakens authority and breeds resentment. Mercy, while admirable, can allow disorder to spread if it prevents necessary punishment. For Machiavelli, the true cruelty is allowing instability, civil war or crime to flourish due to weak leadership. This discussion naturally leads to one of Machiavelli's most famous arguments, whether it is better for a ruler to be loved or feared. Fear versus love. While being loved is ideal, Machiavelli believes love is unreliable because it depends on emotional bonds that can disappear under pressure. Fear, rooted in the expectation of punishment, is more consistent. However, fear must be controlled. A ruler should never seize property or insult honor unnecessarily, as these actions generate hatred. The ideal balance is fear without hatred, ensuring obedience while preserving public order. To maintain this balance, Machiavelli argues that rulers must abandon traditional moral expectations and instead learn how politics actually works behind appearances. Morality and deception. Machiavelli asserts that rulers must learn how not to be good. Because others are deceptive and self-interested, a ruler who insists on moral purity will be exploited. He encourages rulers to master deception while maintaining the appearance of virtue. Promises may be broken when circumstances change, especially if keeping them threatens the state. In Machiavelli's view, political morality is judged by results, not intentions. Yet deception and strategy alone are not enough. For Machiavelli, no ruler can survive without control of force. Military power. A strong military is the foundation of all political authority. Machiavelli strongly condemns mercenaries and auxiliary forces, calling them dangerous and disloyal. Mercenaries fight for pay, not loyalty, and allies pursue their own interests. Only a citizen or national army ensures security. A ruler who neglects military preparedness invites invasion, rebellion, and loss of power. Beyond force, Machiavelli also emphasizes the importance of how a ruler is seen by the public. Public image. Machiavelli stresses that people judge leaders by appearances because few experience rulers directly. Therefore, maintaining a favorable public image is essential. A ruler must appear religious, just, merciful, and loyal, even if political necessity requires violating these virtues. Reputation shapes legitimacy, and legitimacy sustains power. In politics, perception often matters more than truth. Even with strength and reputation, rulers must still contend with forces beyond their control, what Machiavelli calls fortune. Fortune and adaptability. Fortune governs part of human affairs, but not all. Machiavelli compares fortune to a violent river that destroys those unprepared. Successful rulers anticipate change and adapt their behavior accordingly. Rigidity leads to downfall, while flexibility preserves power. Leaders must act boldly when fortune favors them and cautiously when it does not. All of these ideas ultimately point toward Machiavelli's central conclusion about leadership and political responsibility. The final takeaway. The prince argues that the primary responsibility of a ruler is the survival of the state. Ethical considerations are secondary to political necessity. Machiavelli does not praise tyranny for its own sake, but recognizes that harsh measures may be required to prevent greater harm. His work exposes uncomfortable truths about leadership, power, and human nature. Truths that continue to resonate because they reflect how politics often works, not how we wish it would. Though written over 5 centuries ago, the lessons of the prince still echo through modern politics, leadership, and human nature. Machiavelli did not ask how the world should be. He asked how it truly is, and in that question his ideas became timeless.